All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this exciting topic of logic. In this video, we're going to get into, is it strong argument, weak argument, cogent or uncogent argument? We're going to do a quick recap on evaluating arguments. You know, we have both deductive arguments and inductive arguments. Now, to evaluate either a deductive argument or an inductive argument, you're going to look at the premises and you're going to ask two questions. One, do the premises support the conclusion? And the second question is, are the premises true? Okay, and first in deductive arguments, you ask the premises, do they support the conclusion? If the answer is yes, now you have a valid argument. So you have an argument, a deductive argument. Do the premises support the conclusion? Boom, yes. Now you got a valid argument. So you want a sound argument. This is the strongest, most powerful argument. Are they true? If you have a premises that's true, be a valid argument with true premises, then it's impossible for the conclusion to be false. Keyword impossible for the conclusion to be false in a valid deductive argument with true premises. All right, for example, here is a valid deductive argument. This is what is known as a categorical syllogism. Notice this line separates the two premises from the conclusion. All snakes are reptiles. All reptiles are animals. Therefore, all snakes are animals. Now, why is that? In this argument, the premises do support the conclusion. The conclusion does follow necessarily from the premises. Now, how is that? For example, some people had some questions about my two circles method. So let's look at premise one. All snakes are reptiles. Here's a snake. Okay, here's the reptiles. You can do this at home just by drawing circles. Okay. So you have snakes. All snakes, according to that premise, are reptiles. Okay, so you put all the snakes in the reptile circle. Next premise, all reptiles are animals. So this circle is all things that are animals are in this circle. So a reptile, according to this premise, is an animal. All snakes are reptiles, and all reptiles are animals. So you put all the reptiles in the animal circle, and we already know that according to the premise, all snakes are reptiles. So now the conclusion says all snakes are animals. Are all the snakes in the animal circle? Yes, because they're also in the reptile circle, which are an animal circle. So this is how the premise supports the conclusion. Okay, here's another example of a valid deductive argument. Listen to this argument. All pit bulls are poodles. All poodles are dogs. Therefore, all pit bulls are dogs. Now in this argument, you'll notice the premises is not true. All pit bulls are not poodles, but the premises do support the conclusion. Now what do I mean by that? Look at this. So we got three things here. We got pit bulls, poodles, and dogs. Okay? So here's your dog circle, your poodle circle. You can do this at home, and you can draw a dog circle. So the first premise, all pit bulls are poodles. So here's a pit bull, put it in the poodle circle. Everything in this circle are poodles. So you put the dogs in the poodle circle. Okay, next premise, all poodles are dogs. So this is everything that's a dog goes in this circle. According to this premise, all poodles are dogs, so you put all the poodles in there, and you already know that all pit bulls are poodles. So the conclusion says all pit bulls are dogs. Is this true? Are all the pit bulls in the dog circle? Yes. Okay, so remember the first question is, do the premises support the conclusion? Just assume that they're true. Don't worry about that right now for the first step of the valid part. You just do the premise support the conclusion? If so, and it's a deductive argument form, then it's valid. Okay, and if you don't know the deductive and inductive in the forms, go back and watch the previous videos, but let's jump right in and start evaluating inductive arguments. Okay, you remember the two different types, deductive and inductive, necessary reasoning and probabilistic reasoning. Same for inductive arguments. You look at the premises, ask, do they support the conclusion? And are they true? Evaluating an inductive argument, same as a deductive. Okay, do they support the premise? If they do support the conclusion, now you have what is called a strong argument. You have your argument. If they do support the conclusion, boom, now you step up to strong. You eventually want to make your way up to cogent. Okay. Okay, I know this is a lot of information. I'm trying to cram it all in a very short period of time, but that's what we do here in this channel. Okay, so the question, do they support the conclusion? Inductive argument. If they do, it's strong. And if you have a strong inductive argument, it is improbable that the premises is true and the conclusion is false. Now, if the premises are assumed to be true, it is probable that the conclusion is true. Remember probabilistic reasoning. Okay, let's look at an example of a strong inductive argument. Listen to this argument. All diamonds that have been found so far have been hard. Therefore, probably the next diamond to be found will be hard. That is an example of a strong inductive argument. Something I wanted to mention also, look at this here. So you have an argument, then you either have deductive arguments or inductive arguments. Then you go down, 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 and down. So deductive, valid, sound, inductive, strong, cogent. What I wanted to mention was, unlike valid arguments, you either have a valid argument or no valid argument. In an inductive, you have strong. Now you have degrees of strength. You have 50% is a strong argument, 60% stronger, 70% stronger. So degrees in an inductive argument. Anything over 50% probably true, then it's strong. If it's under 50%, it's weak. All right, let's look at an example of a weak inductive argument. Here's one. Listen to this argument. Few, if any, oysters that have been found contain pearls. This is an oyster. Therefore, it probably contains a pearl. And why is it weak? Look at the premise. Few, if any, oysters that have been found contains a pearl. So that means few pearls in an oyster. And this is an oyster, so it should have probably not. But it says it probably does contain a pearl. It's a weak argument. Another thing to mention, just like deductive arguments, the strength of an argument does not matter if the premises are true. So the first step is just, do they support the conclusion? Inductive, if yes, then it's strong. Deductive, if yes, then it's valid. Doesn't matter if they're true. True is the next step to get down to this tier. But here's another example of a strong inductive argument. Listen to this. Most trees have very large root systems. Therefore, the tree in your yard probably has a large root system. This is an example of a strong inductive argument. All right, I think you guys are ready for a few practice problems. You got a good understanding of how to evaluate inductive arguments. Let us begin. Okay, and you're going to get the most out of this if you press pause and try and answer the question for yourself. I'll let you know when to press pause and then press play after you've written down the answer to see if you're correct. Listen to this practice argument, this practice question. All previously discovered pearls have been round. Therefore, probably the next pearl to be discovered will be round. So question, is this argument a strong argument or a weak argument? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. That's correct. It's a strong argument. If you assume that the premises are true, and based on that assumption, then this conclusion is probably true. Here's another practice problem. Listen to this argument. 70% of all bears have bad breath. This animal is a bear, therefore probably it has bad breath. Now, is this argument strong or weak? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's a strong argument. So notice the conclusion follows with a 70% probability. And as you remember, any conclusion that follows with more than a 50% probability is said to be strong. Well, here's another practice problem. Listen to this argument. Only 20% of snakes are poisonous. This reptile is a snake. Therefore, this reptile is probably poisonous. Now question, is this argument strong or weak? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. That's correct. It is a weak argument. Notice that the conclusion only follows with a 20% probability. All right, here's another practice problem. Listen to this argument. 75% of geese lay golden eggs. This is a goose, therefore it probably lays golden eggs. So the question is it strong argument or a weak argument? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's a strong argument. Now notice the premise is actually false. Geese do not lay golden eggs, but we're not looking at that right now. If you assume that they're true, then the conclusion does follow probably from the premise. All right, and here's another practice problem. Listen to this argument. 80% of college graduates get a good job. Jack knows a college graduate. Therefore, Jack will probably get a good job. This one's a little bit tricky. Press pause and let me know if the answer is strong or weak. The answer is 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's a weak argument. And notice why it's weak is because this premise does not support the conclusion. Whether or not Jack knows a college graduate, he's not a college graduate, so he wouldn't be in the 80%. Now, this is a weak argument. All right, what a great job. I think you're very good now at determining whether it's a strong or weak argument. But wait, there's more. We got to go down to the next tier. We want to get to cogent. We want to get a cogent argument. So we've looked at it. We've got strong. Do they support the conclusion? If so, it's strong. Next, we're going to go for cogent. How do we know if they're cogent? We ask, are the premises true? All right, very good. So you got a strong argument plus true premises. If you got a strong argument plus true premises, then you're going to have a cogent argument. Now, if any one of these is not correct, if it's not strong or the premises is not true, then the argument, it's uncogent. Now, for example, you remember this argument? It was a weak argument because it only followed by 20% probability. And you know weak arguments are uncogent. Now, you remember this argument? The golden geese laying eggs. It followed 75% probability, so it makes it a strong argument. But you know that the premises are untrue, and it's uncogent because geese do not lay golden eggs. Okay, so a cogent argument is a flawlessly good argument. It has good reasoning, that is, the premise support the conclusion, and it has true premises. Therefore, it's a flawlessly good argument. All right, let's do a couple of practice problems with cogent or uncogent arguments. I think you got this, no problem. Here's a practice argument for you, practice problem. Listen to this argument. Most planets are made of cheddar cheese. Mars is a planet, therefore Mars is probably made of cheddar cheese. Question, is this argument strong or weak? Now's the time to press pause, because the answer is 3, 2, 1. It's a strong argument. That's correct. If you assume that the premises is true based on that assumption, the conclusion follows probably from the premise. Now, is this argument cogent or uncogent? Press pause. 3, 2, 1. That's right, it's uncogent. And why is it uncogent? Because the premises is false. Most planets are not made of cheddar cheese. Here's another practice problem. Listen to this argument. All previously examined apples contained seeds. Therefore, the next apple to be examined will probably contain seeds. So, question, is the argument strong or weak? Press pause, because the answer is 3, 2, 1. It's a strong argument. That is, if you assume that the premises is true, then based on the assumption, the conclusion probably is true. Now, next question. Is this argument cogent or uncogent? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. You're right, it's cogent. The argument is strong. So the next question you ask, is the premise true? And the premises are true. Therefore, you got a cogent argument. Dun, da, da, da. Another practice problem. Listen to this argument. Only a few business owners have $1 billion. Now, Donna is a business owner. Therefore, Donna probably has $1 billion. Now, is this argument strong or weak? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. It's a weak argument. That's right. If you assume that the premises are true, then based on the assumption, the conclusion is not probably true. Therefore, it's a weak argument. Next question. Is this argument cogent or uncogent? Press pause because the answer is 3, 2, 1. Dun, that's right, it's uncogent. The argument is weak, and remember, all weak arguments are uncogent. All right, great job. We got a lot done here in 14 minutes, kind of a long video. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Tune into the next videos. Check out our other videos. Please post your questions and comments below, and have a great day.